Welcome to coaching winning baseball and softball. Coaching is first and foremost teaching the basic skills of the game so that your players can excel at the game we all know and love. This video will walk you through basic skills and helpful drills on hitting, throwing, and fielding. Before any practice can be productive, you need to teach your players proper skills. The next section of the video is about how to conduct a practice. Many of you that are watching this video may never have coached baseball or softball before. The video will provide you with detailed graphics that will help you grasp how easy and fun conducting a practice can be. You may have just volunteered to coach your son or daughter's team, or worse, been volunteered to coach because no one else would, and you don't have a clue where to begin. In the conducting a practice section of this video, we will give you great ideas on how to conduct a practice that will keep everybody busy and having fun, including you. Your host and coach's coach for this video is former professional baseball player, collegiate record holder, and father of 3 boys, Bill Ewing. Bill finished his NCAA collegiate baseball career with a career batting percentage of .426. He also held for several years both the NCAA Division I record for home runs and slugging percentage, and was chosen first-team All-American. A bright professional career with the California Angels was ended abruptly with a career-ending shoulder injury just prior to being brought up from the minor leagues, where he had set organization records for home runs, runs scored, and RBIs. Bill has been working professionally with families and young people for over 17 years as a youth and family counselor. He and his wife Nancy have 3 boys that love the game of baseball. In the last but probably most important section of this video, Bill talks about his philosophy of coaching young people. The opportunity to spend your summer days and evenings with family and kids, learning America's pastime, is one of life's great opportunities and pleasures. We hope you'll appreciate Bill's philosophy on how to keep your role and responsibility as coach in the right perspective, as well as how to have fun working with young people and teaching them a game they can love for a lifetime. So let's join Bill as he walks us through how to coach winning baseball and softball. Here is your coach, Bill Ewing.
As we look at the skills, we're going to break that into 3 parts. We're going to start with hitting, and then throwing, and then fielding. As we start with hitting here, everybody loves to hit. You come out to a practice and you have your kids out there, everybody wants to hit first. I'll tell you what makes hitting a lot funner is when you're hitting well. We've taught these skills to a bunch of kids, boys and girls, and we've never seen any of them not develop. All of them have improved to some extent. We're going to break it down into little parts so it'll simplify the hitting process for you, and then you can put it all together. Don't get bogged down with all the details, just learn a little bit at a time. Let's begin with the grip of the bat. First thing we want to do is make sure that the grip of the bat is a proper grip. We lay the bat into the fingers and we wrap the hand around the bat, rather than going ahead and putting the bat back into the backside of the hand. The best way to do that is have the boys and girls set the bat down in front of them, grab it with their fingers, just in their fingers, and then come up to a hitting position without moving the fingers. This is a lot better than what a lot of the kids and players do is they choke the bat. Choking is getting the bat way back in the palm of the hand, way back in here in the palm of the hand, and you wrap your fingers around the bat, and that's called choking the bat. And a good way of seeing if a kid is choking the bat is if you were going to go ahead and draw a chalk line on your bat, like here, and you're going to draw it from the finger to the thumb, this will kind of come up and the thumb will be above the finger. That will show that you're choking. Now if we get that bat in the fingers and we draw that same line, that bat's going to come down, or that chalk line is going to come down on the bat to the thumb. We can do it that way, or we can show it from this position also. Is now we drew a line, it's coming down to the thumb. That probably means that your bat is in the fingers. The purpose of not choking the bat is because when a swing comes through, they come through and all of a sudden your bat takes a loop like this because the bat is way back in the back of the hands. Another reason for not choking the bat is that if you have the bat into the fingers and you come through the strike zone, not only does it not bounce, but you've also added the strength of your forearms and your wrist to go ahead and help hit the ball. This can add sometimes 15 to 25 feet to the ball. So we want to make sure we have proper grip. Now once we have the proper grip, then we're going to move to the placement of the hands. The hands need to be about 6 inches in front of the shoulder, at the back shoulder, where Beth has her hands right now. And we can see that from the film here. Also, from younger kids, stay right in your position, Beth. Younger kids from the 7-year-old on up can move the hands back a little further to start. And that basically allows them the ability to pull through with the front arm and not just hit from a dead position. The older the kids get, they can be a little bit closer in here with the hands. They're going to be quick enough to adjust to the swing. We also want the hands hidden from this camera. If you're the pitcher and you're the coach and you're pitching to them and you see this hand sitting way out here, you might want to ask them to hide their hands a little from you. And all that does is just hide the hands so that you can't see the hands, maybe just a little bit of the bottom of the hands. Okay, from that position we also have where the bat positioning is. Beth has her bat in a pretty good position, about right here. That's a pretty good position. You have a mistake. A lot of times people want this up here with the bat up here like this, or some of them will be wrapping the bat, and that's a common mistake, is what you've got the bat wrapped behind here. The reason that this is a very poor thing to do with the bat, even though sometimes you might see people in the big league starting in this position, they will come to this hitting position right here when the ball is pitched. And the reason that they do that is because you want to get the head of this bat right here, where this mark is on the bat, right here with the O, and you want to go ahead and get that through the strike zone as fast as you possibly can. The best way to bring a bat through the strike zone is to go straight. Just like when you're running a race, you don't run a race by running crooked. You run straight to the point you're going. That's the object of the hitting too, is we want to bring this bat through the strike zone, right through there where Beth has brought it, right to this point. If you've got it wrapped, the fastest way through the strike zone is where, Beth? Right almost through your head, okay? And you can't do that. So they have to sweep the bat around here to start. If they've got it started in this up position, they've got to somehow drop the bat to come here. So you've got two different movements, and that's going to slow down the quickness of the hands. So let's go back to the stance right at this point. But you'll notice with Beth's stance right now, Beth has a good batting stance. The elbow is a little bit pointed down. A lot of times people are telling you to point your elbow up. We have a lot of hitting instructors telling you that today. I'd prefer to simplify the swing by having the elbow slightly down. You don't want it exaggerated way down in here, but you want it here. And the reason that I feel that you need the elbow in this position is when you come and hit the ball, it is in that position right there. It is in that position. So if your elbow is going to be in an up position, let's get it up, Beth, like this, to come and hit, you're going to have to come down to hit the ball. It just adds a little something complicated to the swing, rather than being able to bring the bat right from this position, pointed there, and bring it right straight to contact. And we want contact to be right out front here, or where the ball is pitched. We don't want contact in here. Okay, we want that ball contacted out front. And that's where we want the back elbow to be, is right here. I know most of you grew up with everybody telling you to keep that back elbow up, and you get that bat up. Now that complicates the swing, because now if we were going to go straight to there, we can't do that, so we've got to drop everything and come to that here. Right now I want you to put the bat out in front of you just a little bit so we can see the hands. Okay? If you're pitching and you see this in either your left-handed or your right-handed hitters, you might want to hide the hands just a little bit. By hiding the hands, you just pull them back away so that from this pitching view, we don't see the hands. Okay? Also, you want the bat laid down just a little bit so that it can come through the strike zone. Those are two good stances, two good positions right there. Okay, the other thing that we want to do is we want to look on the stance is the balance of the stance. If you notice that their feet about shoulders width apart, it's a good athletic stance. And we have the weight on the balls of the feet. Here we have the weight on the balls of the feet rather than back on the heels. You don't want to have the weight back on the heels where you can't pivot. You don't want to be too much on the toes where you've lost your balance. Balance is a really important part of hitting because it keeps the head still. Okay, now we move from a balanced stance. We've got our stance. You've got the kids working in the stances. A lot of times you want to work on these the first week of practice. The first week of practice, so they're developing the skills. You want them to develop these skills properly so that when we go out to take the hitting, we go out to do hitting, that they do it right. Here we have the stance. Now we are balanced like this, and we want to go ahead and do what we call loading the bat. Now loading the bat is simply, it's like coiling a rubber band or coiling back like this so that now the bat is loaded, it's ready to hit, it's ready to explode. A real common mistake made by young baseball and softball players is a lot of them like to hit from a dead position. They're standing here like this and they want to hit from this position right from here. That is a difficult way to hit a baseball or a softball, and it basically upsets your timing. Your timing is really interrupted by that. What we want to do is we want to load the bat just before the pitch comes, and this is a part of the timing. Loading is a big part of timing, and we'll see in a minute this also is a stride. What we want to do is we just load the bat. Remember we said there's two ways to load the bat. One, you just rotate the shoulders. Just rotate the shoulders and the hip. Two is you simply push the hands back just a little bit. Just some way to load. Your players will learn to load what feels comfortable for them. The most important thing though is that you see that they have some type of way of loading the bat. So it's loaded and now it's ready to explode through. The next thing we want to look at now is we want to look at the stride. Now on the stride, what we want to do on the stride is it's just a soft step with the front foot. Kind of like you're stepping on ice. It's just a soft stride. Just kind of tiptoe and step out like it's on ice. Okay, the weight is kept pretty much still. The weight is kept pretty much over the back foot. It's just a nice little stride there. Okay, you don't want the weight shifting too much. One drill that's a good healthy drill to do is this drill here. Nick, why don't you go ahead and stand kind of sideways this way. And that is that a coach can go ahead and grab right here on the hips of the ball player and then say stride, and he'll stride and the weight and the hips will not move a whole lot. If they're moving too much like this and all of a sudden they're way out here, he's going to have lost a little bit of the balance here, and also he's going to be striding forward, which is going to make him unable to keep the head still. So you can go ahead and hold the hips and let them stride on like they're stepping on ice. Now this weight will eventually shift out front, but right now we want to get the stride down to a softer stride. Well, all we want to do is simplify this so that we do have a little shifting of the weight. When Nick is in the stance and he strides, the weight stays pretty much right here, and he's got more of the weight on this back leg right here. More weight is here. And then when he pops the hips and comes forward to hit out here, and the hips are already popped open, your weight is on the forward. It's not supposed to be necessarily balanced. We want to get the weight out here in the front a little bit to where it's hitting the ball on the front leg. That's where the power is. Then after the swing, we'll go ahead and come through that real slow. Ready? Boom, the hips pop open, the weight is out here in front, and then he comes back, and then maybe the weight will shift back to this type of an angle back here. Too many people keep the weight back all the time. Let's go ahead and show one with the weight back all the time. When it's back here, you've lost all of your power because everything's still back here, and you want to have the weight forward. Henry Aaron, if you watch Henry Aaron hit, watch Babe Ruth hit, and I know these are home run hitters, but their weight is extremely forward. They got their weight way forward on that. So we want to make sure that the weight shifts from the back to the front, and then it comes back to this position. They've loaded, we've walked through all this, we've got the grip, we've got the stance, the bat's in a good position, the pitch is coming, we load the bat and we stride like this, and now at this point we want to make sure that the hips are a very important part of hitting. A lot of times this is another common mistake that young players make, is they forget to use the hips. The hips start the swing. The hips bring the hands to the ball. The hips are the power in your swing. You've kind of got yourself close to the pitcher where kind of the cheek, your front cheek here is kind of close to the pitcher. If you'll notice that both Nick and Beth have their toes pointed forward, they're not opened up. Let's open your toes up and show you their front toe. So if you open that front toe, now your hips are already committed. We want to close those hips up so that the hip is also loaded. When we stride with our hips still closed. So almost like your heel steps towards the pitcher. Good job. Both of you did that good. Step so that the heel kind of points. Now, to start the swing, what we want to do is we want to pop these hips open. Really pop them open here forward. Okay, they pop open. You don't want them just to slowly come through the strike zone. We want them to pop because they're going to start the swing. They're going to start the swing and bring the hands to the ball. When we go ahead and do the swing, we've got our stance, we take our stride, the hips open up, we throw the bat. The shoulders stay fairly square. And what we mean by that is that your shoulders are going to be fairly level here. Now you're going to have to, because this right hand is underneath the bat, you're going to have to be down a little, but you don't want to go ahead and tilt the shoulders so that they come through at this angle. Okay? you want to go ahead and at least have some type of a square shoulders. If the kid is underneath the ball a lot or popping the ball up a lot, then you're going to know that he's probably coming through with his shoulders in this direction at this angle like this here. Okay, now from the hips, we're just taking these a piece at a time. We start from the hands, we get the stance, we get a good balance. Okay, we get the bat loaded, we got the stride here, we got the hips popping open, and now we come to the swing. Now, in the swing, we want the hands to come right through to the ball. So if your ball is out in front of the plate is where we want them to hit the ball right out here, then we want the hands to come directly to that spot. We do not want the hands to come out here first, okay? And if they lock their arms out here, then they're going to have to sweep out here. This is called sweeping. Right now, both their arms are extended way back here. That's going to cause sweeping. They're going to have to sweep the bat through the strike zone rather than coming through here with the arm still bent, wrist still bent, and then unload at contact. That's where you can go ahead and have a lot of speed. You don't have to be big, okay? Is to go ahead and load so that, boom, everything straightens at this point here and not sweeping the bat. Okay, you're sweeping that. Sweeping means you're straightening your arm here. Go ahead and sit down. You're coming like this and you're straightening here and coming here. We don't want to do that. We want you coming from here, coming out here, and here's where you straighten at contact. Okay. So you're driving the ball down to the middle of there. Okay? There. Way better. Way better swing. Sweeping comes way out this way. So they're going to have to come way out there, and it's very difficult to time a ball when you're going to go ahead and come at this direction. There's your swing. We come through, we pop the hips, we throw the hands straight out here, so all of a sudden they explode right at contact out here. Now at this point at contact, once the wrist pop the ball, then we want to go ahead and come through, and you pull up so that the bat comes up around the back part of the neck. Another thing with the swing, we want to come through, we want to help them pull through with the front arm. This will prevent collapsing. Instead of coming through like this and just collapsing the front arm, it's kind of like they were swinging, and you'll notice this if you'll take a picture of them or just watch them. It's like somebody shoots them with a gun in this arm right at the swing. They come through, then all of a sudden they just collapse down like this. This is a real common mistake that's made. We want them to come through with this arm, pop it, and come all the way up here so that they come through the swing. Okay, stop. Everything's fine except for when you finish, you don't want to finish down here. You want that finish to come through contact and then pull that thing up around here. Okay, pull it up here after contact. Okay, there. There you go. Good job. Let's go ahead and show a drill here, Nick and Beth, by just holding the bat with one arm, your front arm. You come through at contact, boom, that front arm still comes up around, pulls up at contact. Right at contact, it comes up around the head rather than going down. Okay, now, last thing we're going to talk about here before we put this all together into a swing is that we're going to talk about the head. The head is the most important part of all of hitting. Actually, your players can do everything else wrong we've talked about, and if they keep the head still, they'll probably hit the ball. So this is a fundamental key to hitting, is that we want to make sure that the head starts on this shoulder right here. They've loaded their bat, it's tucked back like this, and you'll see that this is on the shoulder. We go through the stride, the hips, the loading. We come through. The head does not move. It simply rotates to this shoulder. It should be from shoulder to shoulder. No, actually, the head does not move from shoulder to shoulder. The head stays perfectly still, and the shoulders simply rotate around it. A good way to do this drill as a coach is you can go ahead and hold the head right here, okay, and just hold the head. Okay, so Beth, you'll step and go ahead and go through the swing real slow. This also forces her not to straighten up. She'll come right through here. Don't have her swing hard. And she'll contact right here, and the bat will come around and see her head does not move, and she gets used to that feel. The thing that this does is if you're going to go ahead and hold the head like that, let's do it again, Beth, and she's going to sweep the bat, go ahead and start to sweep it. Look at it. It's going to take you right out. It's going to hit you right here because she's sweeping the bat. It's already extended. This also helps with the head because you can come through right here, the head stays still, and this is the most important thing in hitting. You can do all these other things wrong, and if the head stays still, most of the time you're going to have contact with the ball. Good thing here to do is to go ahead and have like you have a stake driven down through the head, through the body, and all the way down into the ground. So when Beth swings, she just rotates around that stake. And she can't move because the stake's got her driven down. If she moves forward like this with her body, okay, you can't do that with the stake driven down. And this keeps everything stable. And you're going to be able, if your head's stable, then you're going to be able to hit the ball without moving all over. Now, don't get overwhelmed by all the information. That's why we've given you a workbook to take with you out on the field. We've also given you this video so that you can break it down into pieces. If you're saying, oh, this is overwhelming to me, we've used this with lots of coaches, lots of parents that have never even known the game of baseball, that have learned these skills and have got excited about seeing their kids develop. Just take a little bit at a time and work through some of the basic skills so that then when we put it all together, that all of a sudden we have an explosion right here. And that's what I like to at least tell the kids, is that we're like a stick of dynamite when we all put this together. The fuse is being lit, you load the fuse, and all of a sudden when it decides to go, you don't do everything one at a time. It just goes boom and everything pops at one moment. Okay, we've just walked through the fundamental skills of hitting, but what I'd like to do now just to help you is I'm going to show you with Nick some of the drills that will enhance some of these skills, or sometimes when they've made a mistake or have a common problem, what are some of the drills that you can use to correct these skills? Okay, we've just go ahead and get in your stance here, Nick. We've just used one drill, and then remember what that is to hold the bat. Now, to show you what this is for, this can be used for a lot of reasons. One is to help them come through the swing properly. So they walk through the swing, and you can walk them through the swing here, and you can tell if they start to straighten out, and you want them to get the feel of a good swing. He's pulling hard against me, he's pulling hard against me. If I let it go, the bat would swing, and I let him come all the way down. Now, if he starts to collapse here, see, then I can tell that. So I want him to keep coming up and pull up so he gets used to a good swing. This can also be used if they're collapsing the bat, or just if they have a basic, their swing doesn't look very good. And we've also showed you the one where we put our head on his head, or my hand on his head, and he swings through. This can also be done up against the fence. You go ahead and have Nick stand, why don't you face this way, Nick, and I'm the fence here, and they can stand this close so they have to swing so that their hands see how the bat has to come through here instead of coming out. Okay, you're going to swing against the fence, and notice how close he is to the fence. Go ahead and take some swings, Nick. This helps him keep compact with his swing. Now, if he doesn't swing like that and he swings out, he hits the fence there. So this is a good drill when they're sweeping the bat. One more, Nick, swinging right. Job. We're going to also be talking to you in the practice session of this video about some drills, and these are some of the drills we'll be talking about. First of all, we're going to talk about a side ball drill. I love this drill because you can sit and get 40, 50 swings in a few minutes, and you can go ahead and get the same impact. Here's what a side ball drill is. Nick's standing like this. One of the players is out in front here, or one of the coaches is out in front. They have a bag of balls here, and all they do is flip a ball out in front so that you flip it, it comes right out here, and he will hit the ball out in front here against the screen. We suggest you use tennis balls. Get extra tennis balls so you don't damage the screen because baseballs can put dents in it and damage them. This just helps them with their swing. This is a good exercise, especially if their bat speed is very slow. And what you want them to do here is really explode. You want them to explode by just getting out here, you throw it out, and they have to really pop fast and come through hard to the ball. This is called side ball toss. You can have two kids all along the fence doing it, so you got all of your kids doing something at one time. With side ball, we have a variation of this, and this is your front arm side ball. This is where Nick will choke up on the bat here a little bit, and he'll get in his stance. If they're little kids, then you'll notice the backhand. Turn this way, Nick, so they can see your backhand. The backhand might even support the bat because it might be too heavy for little kids, and he may just let it support there. Then what we do here is we'd go ahead and flip the ball out in front, and he will swing one-handed, maybe 10 swings. That strengthens the front arm. He starts pulling this arm through real good and has a good bat. This is if the front arm is real weak and it's collapsing. That's another drill. We'll also be using a drill called pepper. Now, pepper is a really important drill because it helps the batter here, the player, keep his eyes on contact with the ball so that it hits in the fat part of the bat. That is called the meat of the bat, right here at this point here. We don't want to be hitting the ball out here. We don't want to be hitting the ball back here. And if you've watched during the games or practice that they hit the ball, but it just doesn't seem to go very far, you notice that the ball is bouncing off of down here or up here, then this is a good drill for that player. And maybe we'll go ahead and say, Nick, I think you need to go work on a little pepper before today's game. And so he'll go ahead and stand out here, and I'll just simply flip the ball to him at a distance with a glove on, and he'll tap the ball back to me just by hitting the ball here and just tap it. He's not swinging full. He's simply tapping the ball so he gets contact with the meat of the bat. Another couple hitting drills we'll be using will be one called short toss. Short toss is when you get a short distance away from the kids behind a screen, and this time you just need a bucket there. You can even sit on a chair, and all you do is sit there and throw just from a short distance so that they have to have a quick bat. They can get in 4 or 5 swings as opposed to maybe 1 compared to if you're at a full distance. The other drill is that sometimes you can have what we call base hits. And base hits is a drill that you'll see in a lot of the big league games. In the big league games, we'll go there, and if you go early before the practices, you'll see that they have a pitcher on the mound, and he's throwing, and a line of boys is lined up back here. And lined up, they get 1 swing if it's a strike. If it's a ball, they stay in there. If it's a strike, then they go ahead and they hit the ball. And if they hit it hard or crisp, or maybe even at a base hit, then we say stay in there. And they get to stay in there and take another swing. Now the purpose of this drill is so that Nick and the players get used to one pitch game situations. They don't get to just sit there and swing 40, 50 swings. They get a game situation. They're in there and they got 1 pitch to hit the ball, and that's what it feels like to be in a game situation. You see, part of this video, all we want to help you do as coaches is help your players know what it's going to be like to be in the game situation and get comfortable with that so that then they can start to perform well during the game. That's exciting to watch them build up their confidence as they begin to hit the ball better and they begin to go ahead and catch the ball better, and that's what these drills are for. Have some fun, guys. Next, some other rules that we have with this. If they swing and miss, then you say next. The next person jumps in here. You want them back up far enough so that they can't get hurt by pulling the ball into them. They're back behind the players. This is base hits again. If they hit a foul ball, they're out. If they hit a softball, they're out. If they go ahead and hit the ball hard and crisp, then have them stay in there. Stay in there. And that's base hits. That's a fun drill. You can do that with teams and make it kind of competitive. We also have teams of 4, and this is what you may have heard called workup or game situations, and we just call it teams of 4. You have 4 players on a team, and they actually play a game situation while the other ones are fielding. Once team 1 is out, and they have 4 people on their team, they play a regular game situation, and as soon as they're out, then they switch, and you count the runs that they got, and you put in team 2. These are just different variations of hitting drills. You have your regular hitting that needs to happen occasionally too, and that's where you're pitching at a full distance. But these are a lot of different variations that you'll see us using here in the practice. Okay, now we're going to look at the fundamental skills of throwing and the proper ways of throwing and some of the most common mistakes that are made in throwing. Remember, the fundamentals are the same, even though that Nick and I will be using a baseball here to demonstrate this. When we coach softball, it's the same fundamental drills and the same throwing techniques. The only position that doesn't have the same technique in both softball and baseball and all the positions is the pitcher from softball, where they come underarm pitching. We're going to be working with the positive parts of throwing here. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the grip of the ball. It's important that in the grip of the ball that they grip across the seams. Now it doesn't really matter if they're little kids and they can only use 3 fingers, and they might get 3 fingers across the seam. Or sometimes they're even small enough they have to even start using 5 as real young kids. But what we want them to do is go ahead and grip across the seam that you'll see right here with the ball. The purpose of this is so that they're not going to go ahead and grab a ball without a seam. The ball slips on them and it'll go ahead and slip. We want to have a careful grip of the seams right here, with the fingers apart at about a distance of about like this. And if you'll notice with both Nick's and I that the thumb is underneath the ball right here. The thumb's underneath the ball. Important to get a good grip. It's a basic thing of throwing. If they grab the ball wrong and they do everything else right, the ball can still fly off on them. So we've got a good grip. What we're going to do now is we're going to walk through in detail the throwing techniques, the throwing philosophy that we have right now. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of demonstrate with Nick here how do you go ahead and walk through the throwing. We've got the grip. We're going to get in a stance right now, Nick. You stand right about there. And we have some different drills that we use. And some of the different drills is we have our feet still, again, about shoulder width apart. We're bent down a little bit. And we've got our buttocks kind of sitting down, our back kind of straight up. Stay right there, Nick. But from this distance, this is kind of what it looks like. We don't want them going ahead and throwing like this. We don't want them throwing like this. It's kind of this type of a stance so you can see what they look like. It's very good that you walk around just like we did in hitting. You've got them all lined up. And you walk around and you look at them and you see that everything is proper here. We've got the ball in the glove right here, and you can even start this drill without a ball so that they work on the skills more than they worry about throwing. Then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and make the hands break. We call this break. And all we do with breaking is we kind of let our hands kind of slip, kind of rotate down and around kind of like a clock so that they're right here. Now if you'll notice right here, that as Nick turns sideways, stay right like this, Nick, he turns sideways like this, that he's got this glove pointed behind him here. It's not opened up like this. It's right like this, pointed behind him. He's got a little bend in the elbows right here. He's got a bend in the elbows, and it's pretty straight across like this. The most important thing here that I want you to notice is this is what we call the break. Let's go back, Nick, and start again. We've got our hands right here. We break. That's a drill you use. You can use all of your kids at one time using these drills. Remember, the first week, what we want to do is teach them proper drills. Okay, let's go ahead and start through the break here. I want you to see something. We go break. Now, notice this, that Nick has this ball pointed down. This is really important because we're going to talk to you a little bit about short arming later and what short arming is, but you'll notice that we have this ball pointing down. It is not pointed up like this. It is pointed down. That's very, very important that they start right there. One of the most common mistakes is to come and they break and they point the ball up like this. And we'll show you what that does. That goes into what we call short arming the ball. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and walk through a little bit of what short arming so you can see what short arming is right now, and then we'll go back and walk through the rest of the fundamentals. Let's go ahead, break like that. We short arm the ball. Short arm the ball means that he's got the ball right from here, and there's one of two ways of seeing short arming. Short arming is that he'll go ahead, instead of reach way back like this, he'll simply come right here to throw the ball from here. And a good drill that I use with my players is I'll stand right here with them and I'll just let them see what it feels like to come out long like this rather than to come right here with the ball. Okay, they want to go ahead and swing and come out long right here rather than just coming right here. Now, some of the two things that you'll spot with short arming the ball is one is either that the ball is pointed up like we've told you right here, and that'll cause short arming. The other thing that'll happen is they'll come through to throw the ball with their elbow down here and the shoulder up here, and you'll notice the difference between there. We got the elbow down here. That will cause short arming the ball. Now, remember what short arming is? Let's go back to the throwing, and we go ahead. We get hands together. We break. Now, what we do is we call the next step, the next part of this is we tuck. All we do is tuck the glove and open our chest. Tuck the glove and open our chest. And Nick has opened the chest, but you'll notice something. Nick's hand is still pointed back, the ball's still pointed this direction. It's not pointed this way now. Still pointed this direction. This is where he's going to go ahead and open up. He tucks and he opens the chest up. And this is opening the chest up. And this will drive, when he opens that chest up, this will drive this elbow through and make sure that that is at least shoulder high or above that. At least shoulder high or above the shoulder. And then we go ahead and have him go ahead and walk through the full thing. We've got the get ready, we break, we tuck, and now what we want to do is we've opened up, we've pointed this knee, this foot towards the place that we're throwing the ball, and we now go ahead and come through with the ball, and we follow through by simply rotating the hips and letting the hips roll around. The hips will roll around. We're going to point the shoulder towards the throwing target, the chin pointed towards the target. We don't want the chin pointed over this way. We don't want the shoulder opened up. It's closed. Close your body. That basically means that this body is closed towards the target. You don't want it open like this until we tuck the ball. Ready? Everything's closed. Break. Everything's still closed. Everything's still closed. We tuck, we open the body, and we go throw and rotate. Good job. When we do this fundamental, when we do this drill, you'll also notice that catchers will do the same thing. Pitchers will do the same thing. They'll all throw the same way. Catchers may have a little shorter back swing like this. Outfielders will catch the ball. They'll come through the same way. Everybody in the field will look the same the way they throw. If you would stop any picture from the big leagues, from any position, from first base to second base to short to third to all the outfields, they will all look the same. Again, the only person that doesn't look the same is the person that's throwing it underarm. Now, when you go ahead and play catch before the game, and you'll see as we conduct a practice, we want them to be working on doing this properly, doing it right. We work on these fundamentals. There are some different things you can do that'll help develop these skills. We've taught you some of the skills there. One of the ones is Nick, get down on one knee. And this is a drill that is really a good drill for them to go ahead and do it right too. He may close the shoulders like this, and just from a knee, he'll simply go ahead and he will throw the ball, act like he's going to throw the ball, and this just follow through, bending down here from a knee. This just kind of isolates it down to just this deal here so he can get the throwing right. Now, when we throw the ball, what we want to talk about too in throwing the ball is we have what we call a spin on the ball. And a spin on the ball, can you hold this a minute? We grab the seams, we throw the ball, we're coming over the top and throwing the ball. We want this ball to spin and rotate up and down. We call that a 12-6 rotation. That means like on a clock, you've got a 12 o'clock hand, you've got a 6 o'clock hand, and so the ball will rotate that direction. When you see the ball rotating that direction, you're walking around and you're watching the people play catch and kind of observing some of the things. See that when the ball comes, it's rotating like this. The older these kids get, then the tighter the spin should be getting, to where it spins real tight. That it's spinning real tight, you can hardly see any white in it, just the spin of the ball rotating like this. If it's not rotating like that, and maybe it might be rotating sideways, like maybe on a 3 o'clock and a 6 o'clock, or sometimes you might even say a 2 o'clock down to an 8 o'clock rotation, that is poor rotation from at least the field. Now the reason that is poor rotation is because of the way that it's spinning, your ball will tail off on you. What that means is it will come in and it will tail off in a direction and go in another direction rather than going straight. The other thing it does from the outfield, a ball that's got a 12-6 rotation, when it hits the ball, it skips straight. If you go ahead and throw a ball that's spinning at a rotation like this, and it comes in and hits the ball, then it skips a different direction. So we want to try to keep the rotation going 12-6. Okay, now that we've looked at the skills of hitting and the skills of throwing the ball, we want to look at the proper skills of fielding the ball. And we're going to just break this down and simplify this just so that you'll help. We're going to do it first of all, the infielders fielding a ground ball, and then we're going to look at people in the outfield. We'll start with, first of all, how you catch a ball. And a lot of times with catching the ball, if the ball is thrown to you, we've got two hands. We try to have the fingers together, the thumbs together. With any ball that's thrown above the waist, we want them caught up like this. Any ball that's below the waist, we want them going ahead and having the little fingers together. Now we start with the young kids, maybe 7 years old, that we're teaching these skills, so that they get used to doing this. And not going ahead and catching the ball one-handed, like a lot of our big leaguers are doing now. We want them to go ahead and get two hands to the ball. That helps for a lot of reasons. If the ball starts to pop out, the other hand is there to recover the ball. It also has you be able to recover the ball quickly from your glove. We want to get the ball out of the glove as quickly as possible into the hand. So we're not always playing with the ball in the glove. It needs to be out into the hand. Now we're going to go ahead and walk through the stance here, Nick and I. We start from an athletic stance here, like this. This is still feet about shoulder width apart. If you're right-handed, and that means your glove is on your left hand, then you want your right foot just a little back further than the front foot here, so that they're not just square. Now when the ball comes to them, what we want them to do, we first of all want their hands off off of their legs, and we want them moving a little bit of their feet. Their feet are moving a little bit so that they're not just frozen dead. Remember in hitting when we learned how to load the bat? We want to do the same thing here with fielding. We don't want to hit from a dead position. We don't want to field from just being flat on your feet. You want to be moving the feet a little bit when the pitcher's throwing the ball. Now the pitch begins to come and the ground ball comes towards you. We want to stay down. We want to move forward by staying down. You're still staying down and the glove is out in front of you. And it stays out in front of you. You want to field the glove out in front of you so that you're fielding out here. This will develop what we call soft hands. Nick, go ahead and get down in that position. The ball's coming here, and the reason why we call it soft hands is because if the ball takes a bad bounce, he has the ability to come up, catch the ball, and still catch what is called a soft hand. Instead of having it just kind of hit like a wall, like this, had a chance to bounce out, he can come back with the glove. Side. If he's got the glove way back in here and it takes a bad bounce, he has nowhere to go with his glove. You notice he's down, he's bent down, his head is not tucked down like this. We don't have it tucked down, it's up looking like this. And he'll go ahead and then he'll watch the ball into the glove with both hands. As he brings this up, he will go ahead and take what is called a stutter step here where his foot will come across. Now when he comes across here, let's go back to that, he fields the ball, he steps across. Now this is what you can do with all the kids lined up again. Get them 3 lines of 4 and just walk through, saying a ground ball in front of you, and they'll field this way. This foot steps right like this, perpendicular to you. You notice he did not step this way, so he has to throw across his leg. He came across, fielded the ball, came across, then he'll come to the, still kind of down, he comes to the throwing position, and he'll go ahead and come and throw the ball. He'll come to the same throwing position. Infielders might shorten that a little bit and shorten the wheel a little bit, but he'll still field it properly. Okay, let's come back to the start. Okay, ready? Now he's going to go ahead and field out in front, come through, step, come and throw. Now we can develop even a stutter step in there, and once you go ahead and show them what a stutter step is, and that's where sometimes you go ahead, shuffle step. You develop a shuffle step, you just come in and you just shuffle. And maybe take 1 step or 2 steps right there. That's just shuffling the feet. That's shuffle step so that you can get the ball across the infield in time. Let's walk through that shuffle step, Nick, in slow motion. Right, like that. Okay? And he'll tuck and throw. Now, what he does when he stays down like that, let's go ahead and get ready. We do not want to flip the glove. Now, flipping the glove, let's go ahead in slow motion, kind of show him what flipping the glove is. That means that the ball, see how his glove is up, and it's up in this up position? And instead of staying down, he's flipped it up and flipped the ball down there. That's a common mistake that's made, is that they, instead of keeping the glove down all the time, they flip the glove up. That's one of the most common mistakes that's made with young players. Another thing that we want to make sure that they do is that the knees are bent. We do not want the knees straight. Okay, let's go ahead and bend the knees, reach out in front to field the ball. We want them like that so that the knees are in this position. Right here, the knees are bent. Now, if he goes ahead and straightens those, and he bends from this position right here, then he's going to not be able to adjust to a bad bounce or be flexible enough for a bad bounce. He's going to have to go ahead and adjust differently. And one of the drills we'll use here for the fielders is, we'll go ahead and face me, Nick, is he'll go ready, position, okay, the glove out in front, and we'll go ahead and point this direction, and then all the kids will field that direction. You stay down when you field the ball. You don't want to pop up and run over there. You want to stay down the way Nick has stayed down in that position. He'll field the ball, field, and throw. Then he'll get back in the position with all 12 of the kids lined up again like this. We'll go ready, and we'll go ahead and field this position. Okay, field this position. He stays down and fields the ball out in front of him, comes up and throws. And then you can say in front of you. And that's how we want to field the ball in fielding. Okay, now that we've looked at the infield here, we want to be able to just now move to how we field the ball in the outfield. From the outfield grounders, you've got the same style, but let's go ahead and look at the outfield fly. When we go ahead and hit an outfield fly, we want to go ahead and get the glove up in front of you. You want to try to catch the ball a little bit probably right in front of you, and even if you can, on this side of you if you can, so that you can go ahead and have the throwing arm ready. Now notice how the glove faces. He's got the glove up there. It's open like this. The reason that it's open like this is that the ball has a lot more room to land here. Instead of catching the ball like this, where we only have just a short little spot for it to land here. The ball comes down, it's only got about 4 inches rather than this way. He's also going to catch it with 2 hands. The other hand is by the ball so that he can get the ball out of the glove as fast as possible. Or if we have a bad bounce on here, the other hand can adjust to that. He faces the same way, and then he goes ahead and turns and throws the same way from the outfield. Here's some little tips for outfielders. In the outfield, when the ball is thrown over Nick's head or it's hit over his head, what he wants to do is he wants to turn. If he is playing, and this is a little bit more complicated as we get older here, but the ball will always tail towards the foul line, whatever you're playing. So if you're playing left field, whether it's a right-handed batter or a left-handed batter, that ball will tail towards that line. So if Nick is playing here, let's go ahead, Nick, here, and he's playing right field, that means the foul line is along this side and the ball's hit over his head. It's wise for him to turn this way. See how he turned his body this way towards the foul line so that he can go ahead and run and see the ball that way. Now the reason we don't turn the other direction is if the ball's hit over this way and he turns this way, that ball's going to tail. Now he's got to take his eye off it, spin around, and he's going to cause himself to probably misjudge the ball. You'll even see this in the World Series. You've seen people do that. So we want to make sure that we're turning and running on the ball. Here's one key for your outfielders that I just think is a very, very simple thing to do in the outfield. You want them to get to where the ball's coming down as fast as possible. So if the ball's hit over here where I am, Nick wants to be able to get over to me as fast as possible so he can be set up so he can take the ball moving forward. We don't want him drifting where he just slowly comes over here and catches it going in one direction. There's a lot of drills you can use for that in the outfield. You can go ahead, you don't have to hit them all the time. Sometimes you can get your players, line them up, and go ahead and just throw them in the air, and they can run that direction as fast as they can and get to that position. And go ahead and then hit the cutoff so that it lands about right here. They'll catch the ball on the side, just like this, so that they come to the throwing position just like we did in throwing. Here's what the picture looks like from the side. They're looking for the ball to come in. It comes over here. They move back. They move their feet so they catch it here. They catch it. They come to that position and relay the ball so they get used to a quick relay. Actually, there's hardly any bad throws from the outfield if they're going to move their feet properly. If the ball's thrown right to them, that's good. But if it's thrown short back here, then they may have to move up a little bit just to catch the ball up in here. If it's thrown over their head, they have to move back so that they catch the ball here. This is really important to help them get used to relays and the people from the outfield throwing in. Okay, we've walked through some of the fielding, but we want to review some of the things on the fielding. And some of the most important things on fielding a ball is that you want to make sure that you're always moving, the feet are moving. Even a bad throw that's thrown over here can look good by simply moving my feet. There really doesn't need to be very many bad throws, just by moving my feet. So if somebody throws the ball way over this way, I simply move my feet to catch the ball here. We don't want to be catching the ball by reaching like this. Even catchers have a tendency to just reach. We want to just scoot over and move. Make sure the feet are moving. Infield, outfield, make sure the feet are always moving so that they're moving to make the ball clear. The other thing that you want to do is very important in fielding the ball, infield and outfield, is that you want to play the ball. What that means, instead of letting the ball play you, you don't want to stand still and let the ball kind of bounce and then you have to adjust to a bad bounce. You can pick the bounce that you want to catch it. If it's a big bounce, you go ahead and pick it up. You move in, you catch the bounce either on a big bounce or what is called a short hop, where the ball just hits right in front of the glove. That is an easy ball to catch in front of the glove. Also a ball that bounces and you got it in the big hop. That is an easy ball to catch. You don't want to get caught in between where the ball hits here and then it handcuffs you. Handcuff simply means that it's got to where you can't move your hands either direction. And so you want to play the ball. You don't want the ball to be playing you. So when you're doing these drills to the kids, you can have them line up across from each other, and you're going to go ahead and throw grounders. You have them field the ball and try to get them used to feeling comfortable with what is a short hop or playing the ball by charging the ball. Another thing too that's often a mistake that's made is when a ball is dropped and it's dead, or a ball is rolled off and it's dead. Dead means that it's not rolling. So often they try to pick it up with their glove. They try to pick up their glove and then they drop the ball again, plus it takes time. We want always with the dead ball to be picked up with the bare hand. Pick a dead ball up with the bare hand. Now, once we're going ahead and teaching some of the fielding, what we just walked through with Nick, we've walked through some of the fundamentals, infield and outfield, we want to know that you can help them learn to do this, that in the field, and again, this all changes as age goes on. At 7 years old, they're not going to be able to do this quite as well as kids that are 17 and 18 years old. We want them to be thinking before the ball's hit. This is what's really, really important, is to think, okay, when the ball comes to me, what am I going to do with this ball? I have a belief that I tell my players and my girls and boys when we're coaching them, is that even though there's 9 ball players out here, it may look like a slow game sometimes. Every single player has something to do every single pitch. Whether they're going to say, okay, I have a runner on first, I've got to back up somebody, or whether I have somebody on that I've got to make sure that if this ball comes to me, I'm throwing to third. They've got to be thinking beforehand. This is a big part of fielding. We're going to work on a lot of these as we get to the conducting a practice and how to conduct a practice in some of the game situations. We're ready to move on into, now we've finished the skills, we've gone through some of the hitting, we've gone through some of the fielding, we've gone through some of the throwing. Now we've got the basic fundamentals down that you can begin to teach your players the first week or two of your practice session. Now we're going to move into how do we conduct a practice, how we put this all together into a practice form and utilize the time the best we can. Okay, now that we have finished the skills of hitting, throwing, and fielding, and some of the proper mechanics, and also knowing some of the common mistakes, we're going to now move into how do you conduct a practice. This is the second portion of this video, the second section, which will be how to get the most out of each practice, and now how to get drills that we can utilize all the players all the time rather than just using one player. Now in this part of the video, what we want to do is we want to start out, and I encourage you to go ahead and have a meeting with your parents. Call all the parents to a meeting and tell them, first of all, what are your goals here? What are you expecting from them, and what can they expect from you? And that your whole object here is to go ahead and help their kids become to the best potential that they can by learning the fundamentals well. To do this, it's necessary that we as coaches get some help. And this time I'll go ahead and have a meeting with the parents. I want them to know they don't have to know all the baseball skills. They don't have to know all the talent. I just need their bodies there so that we can have everybody doing something in a practice session. Most practices, what happens in a practice session is that you have one person pitching, one person hitting, and 9 people standing around doing nothing. Now what happens in an hour and a half of that kind of practice is maybe little Tommy might get one ball hit to him the whole practice. So he gets to work on one thing one time, except for when he gets to hit. It also leaves time for them to goof around. They're no longer motivated, they're not interested, and it frustrates you as a coach. Now you may have already done this mistake and made this mistake where you've already started your practices, and that's how you've been doing, is pitching and one guy hits and you try to get through 9 players. That's all right. We're all here to be taught. We're all here to learn some things. What we want to do here in this session is we want to go ahead and show you that we can keep 9 people or 14 people busy pretty much all the time during a practice so that they're all doing something. Rather than receiving just one fly ball or one ground ball, maybe they'll receive 50 or 60 ground balls and maybe 50 or 60 fly balls, and they'll have thrown the ball a lot. This is getting the most out of your practice. If you pay attention to this section, it'll help you know what you're going to do, and we can really conduct a good practice in about an hour and 15 minutes. Even if you have a little longer time, then we can add some time. If it's shorter, then we can go ahead and get a good practice in 45 minutes. But this is a real important part of the whole video. We're going to go ahead and start with what we call, after we've learned the fundamentals, we want to make sure that we've got something going on the field all the time. We're going to talk about 2 different types of practice, and we've also even put on the screen here and in your booklet a time limit for these that'll help you just know how you start. First of all, you've talked to the parents. You've talked to brothers, parents, friends, many times high school kids that can come and help, so you have a number of people that can come and help you at the practice. And they'll keep them involved. They'll feel like they're a part of that. I promise you this, everybody that I've ever had help has enjoyed it because they get to see kids improve and they were a part of that. And that's the whole purpose of this video, is to have us enjoy this and make this game enjoyable, but also help them get to their maximum potential. That's what helps build up a boy's or a girl's self-image and self-confidence. We have what we call situations or stations. Stations are when we want to have different things going on all the time on the field, and we rotate with different stations. This is an option of practice. What we mean by this is we can have a side ball toss, where they're going to go ahead and go through what we taught you side ball was. We just go ahead and flip the ball and you have a couple people doing side ball. You could have another group over here just simply doing pepper in another safe location. You might have one person work on pitching, just pitching and the catcher catching with his gear on. You might have another group hitting ground balls to the infielders and another group hitting fly balls. And then what we do is we just ask them to rotate. We go ahead and tell them which way we'll rotate, and we tell them beforehand. You may think that, well, I got 8-year-olds. How are 8-year-olds going to know this? Very simple. You can go ahead and start with just, we read from our left to our right. You can set your stations up going from left field all the way to center field to right field and into here. And we just go ahead, and when they rotate, if you have some help, you have somebody just tell them that they go over to this position. And so you rotate, and you maybe do a rotation of maybe 10 minutes, so everybody's doing something. That way, the whole practice, everybody got to work on one individual skill, and now they got to work on all of the drills themselves. This helps you keep everything going at one time. Everybody's involved. They like the practice. You got a lot done. We have what is called an infield drill, and this is where we'll have the hitters and the shagers. Shagers are the people next to them that will catch the ball when they throw it in and hand the hitter the ball. So we have a hitter and a shager, and they will be hitting ground balls to the left side of the infield, to where the shortstop usually plays. That fielder will field the balls properly that we worked on our skills, throw it into the shager, he'll hand it to the hitter, and the hitter will then hit again. They just rotate. We have at the same time a hitter and a shager standing on the right side here of the batter's box. They'll be hitting ground balls to the right side of the infield, and they'll be going ahead and throwing it in. This helps you accomplish a number of things. One, you've got two groups fielding the ball at the same time, taking a lot of ground balls, and they just rotate behind each other. Meanwhile, you might have maybe some pepper played over here. But many times I'll just have them field ground balls, just to work on ground balls. That is called what we call a simple infield drill. Now we have an outfield drill. Outfield drill has players are in left field, players are in center field, and players are in right field. And then we got three hitters. This hitter over here by first base is hitting the ball to the outfield and right field. He has a shager with him. And then the people by the mound have a hitter and a shager with them hitting to center field. And you have a person at left, right by third base here, and a shager hitting the ball to the left fielders. Now in hitting the ball to the outfield, we want them to go ahead and field the ball properly, just like we taught them in the skills. They will then throw to the cutoff man. The cutoff man, you have one cutoff man for each one of these groups. He will go ahead and make sure that he cuts the ball off. This is really essential that you do it this way, at least to do the cutoff properly. They're not just catching the ball and then just heaving it in. They want to be working on getting a good relay. They're moving their feet. The ball comes in. They want to adjust their feet to where the ball is going to come in. So a warning to some of the younger kids and some of your younger boys and girls that are playing the first part of the year, as you start doing this, they may be catching 35 to 40 ground balls and 35 to 40 fly balls. You don't want them throwing the ball real hard. If they throw the ball really hard, they're going to have a sore arm, and then you're going to be dealing with a sore arm the whole year by using ice and all kinds of things. So just tell them we're working on the fundamentals. We don't have to impress you with the arm. They will be tired by the time they're done with practice if they're going to go ahead and do it right. Now, these cutoff men will rotate after about 4 fly balls with the other outfielders. You'll say, oh, this is way beyond me. This is way beyond me. We've used this with 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and we've used these same drills with them, and they can catch on and they improve. I've had coaches come back to me just excited after getting this information, thrilled with the information, say, I can't believe I first thought it was going to be too difficult, And I found out I can't believe that they just love doing it, and it works. It actually works. And that's the report we get over and over. That's why we put this video together, so that you can go ahead and see how do we conduct the practice. Now, we have, from the infield drill, we have also the outfield drill. We have a combination of infield-outfield drill. This is where we have my infielders at shortstop and second, my outfielders in right field and left field. And now we have 4 hitters and 4 shagers. Now, if you're saying, well, yeah, you had 8 or 9 or 10 or 20 people there helping you out, that's really nice if you can, but if you don't have them, you can also use some players if you got older players. Now, if you got younger players down from 7 years old on up to 11 years old, you're not going to be able to use them as hitters, but they can also switch off as shagers. So you'll just have to be creative so that you've got 4 hitters, 4 shagers. The outside hitters are hitting fly balls to the outfield with the cutoff man throwing it in. The inside hitters are hitting ground balls to short and second, and they throw it into the shager. Are you starting to get the picture here? We've got 4 hitters, 4 shagers. We've got 2 outfielders with a shager, 2 other outfielders with a shager, a cutoff man, a relay man. We've got, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 7, 8, 9, 10. We've already used 10 or 11 players all the time during this practice. So they're all doing something. That's the key of a good practice, conducting good practice. Let's move on to, after we've worked these drills, I want to look again one more time at the stations and explain to you kind of how stations work. We're going to give you a variety of choices. And you can go ahead and use any of these choices or combine these choices. Be creative yourself. Find out what your kids like the most. Make some games out of it. Make some fun out of it. Make even some competition out of it. We get to go ahead in the stations. We may have an infield station where they're just taking ground balls. Now, with that station, we may move on over in to an outfield station where they're catching fly balls. And we may have a station where they're maybe doing side ball into the screen. And we got 3 different stations that are going, and they just rotate stations. The key to practices are to have something going on all the time. They can still take breaks and get a drink of water, and that can even be a station. But we want something to be going on all the time. I don't believe you need to be out in a practice for 2.5 hours to conduct a practice. If we run the practices according to stations or some of these drills, you're going to go ahead and see that it is extremely quick, and they're tired by the time they're done with that. Now, we've divided this session into about 4 parts. 1, we've got it divided into the fact that we've got the first part of the conducting a practice is they come to the practice. We want them to maybe take a lap, maybe to exercise, get the blood flowing in their legs, and you can go ahead and have them take a lap or 2 around the field. If you don't have a field, then you creatively make a field to help them take a lap. This helps them get their legs loose. The next part after taking the lap, and that may just last a second, is you want them to do some of the exercises. Now, with the exercising, it's good that they stretch. It's good that they get ready, because when it's cold out, we don't want them coming out and instantly starting to throw the ball. We start exercising by starting an exercise program, starting with the head or the neck, and we work our way all the way down the body, all the way to stretching the knees. I'd encourage you to talk to an aerobics instructor or somebody that you know there that's in physical fitness that can give you a good exercise program so that they're not bouncing up and down, they're simply stretching so they can go ahead and get loose. Now, once that part will maybe take 5 to 10 minutes that they've taken their lap, they've now started their exercising, we want them to move into playing catch and throwing. The key here is don't just have them go out and start playing catch. Have them line up and play catch with a purpose in mind, that they want to practice the things we've worked on in the skills. So you've got one line here and the other line across from them. Don't let them all just play catch anywhere they want to. People can get hurt that way. We want the players to go ahead, and they want to go ahead and line up maybe behind first base, and the other one's out in the field, so they're all lined up together. In playing catch, we want to have a purpose for playing catch. We want them to move their feet so they can see that there's no bad throws. They can move to the left, move to the right, try to catch the ball in front of them. The people throwing want to work on the fundamentals we worked on from here. When they throw the ball, they want to pick a spot that they want to throw to. A lot of times the boys and girls be out there to just kind of throw the ball, and they're not looking to where they're throwing. So in a game, that'll do the same thing. If they practice the skills, doing what is right, they'll do those in a game. And when you do that, if you'll go ahead and tell them, hey, here's a good game that we played. We kind of act like we got a gun in our hand and we're going to pick a spot and we want to throw and see if we can hit that spot. So if we're going to hit the shoulder, we look at that shoulder, we throw, try to hit that shoulder. Now they're getting used to throwing with a purpose and playing catch with a purpose. Once the arms are loose and they're warm and they've worked out some of the kinks in their shoulders, we'll now move them into what we call the fundamentals and the skills of practice. Fundamentals and conducting the practice. That's where we'll move them into maybe anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes of doing the stations that we just talked about with your fielding and throwing. That's for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Then we'll go into the hitting. Now they've been waiting for the hitting. But we can go ahead and about stations even with hitting to where we have the different stations. Remember, some of the stations we'll be using are side ball toss. And I may have, maybe 3 groups of side ball toss going on. And we'll start with side ball toss. Then the next go ahead and drill we'll use, and maybe they're going to have all the teams playing pepper together where they're working on playing pepper. And then we can have the base hits, and you can use just a variety of these different things during each practice. Maybe alternate them and find out what do your players like to do the most. They'll yell out, all of our players seem to always yell out, we want to do base hits. And we give them kind of points so that the ones that do the best in the base hits, maybe they won't have to run as much at the end of practice. And it makes it kind of fun. We can go ahead and do the base hits where they're going to do the base hits where they pitch the ball and they hit just like we explained earlier in the drills. This is maybe 15 to 20 minutes of some of these hitting drills. Then the last part of the practice is going to be for your situations and some of your explanations so that they start to learn the game. So that situations means that we're going to put everybody in their playing positions and we'll alternate them around. You'll have a coach hit a ball just like a live baseball game and have the other extra runners with helmets on run the bases. They'll run just like they hit the ball. So now they're getting to feel what it's like to get in a game situation. This is where they have to begin to start to think that the ball's hit over to me and they got a guy on first base. We'll remind all the players, even the little 7-year-olds, we remind them of this. We got a player on first base, 1 runner on first base with 1 out. The infielders are to relay that message to the outfield, so they're learning to talk. And now they'll relay to the outfielders the same thing, and then we'll play the game situation so they're used to what it's like to field the game. This is where you can teach them how to throw the ball to a cutoff man to cover the bases and some of the fundamentals. During this part of the section too, I will address some of the things like stealing bases. What are some of the fundamentals of stealing bases? Maybe the next practice, we've worked through the whole practice, we came down to this section of 15 minutes, and now what I'll do is maybe we're going to work on bunting today. Might be the next time that we'll go through the fundamentals, now we're going to work on sliding. We might go through the whole practice and do the warming up, the exercises, the drills, and stations, and then we'll go to hitting, and now we're going to work on some different things. Maybe something that they didn't do right in the game before. Maybe they had a mistake, and instead of yelling at them about that, we simply try to encourage them during this portion of our practice so that they can go ahead and say, now this is where we learn the mistakes that we made yesterday. So we'll be working with bunting, base stealing, sliding, cutoffs and relays, all the different situations, rundowns between the bases so that we learn how to do rundowns. So that in a rundown, we go ahead and we have a guy catch the ball, that he doesn't come and start doing this with the ball and faking everybody out. He keeps the hand up. He runs the player back to the position with the hand up and makes one easy, quick flip. The man receiving the ball in the rundown will be in front of the base so that he doesn't have the person be able to slide into the base. He'll simply have his glove out. When the ball's running him full speed, he just takes a tag and tags him here. It's a very simple way of doing rundowns rather than going back and forth. We don't want to catch with the glove. We want the ball in the hand, in the glove, so you can go ahead and tag them like that. And we're going to demonstrate to them some rundowns right now, and we'll work on some of those skills. There's a lot of different things you can work on the end of the practice, and that's the last 15 to 20 minutes. We've just simply done an hour and 15-minute practice and got an awful lot done. Now, what you'll learn to do as a coach, and you'll learn to know what you're better at and what you're not as good at, is you'll learn to mix some of these. Maybe on one day you'll do base hits for hitting. Maybe the next day you'll do pepper for hitting. Maybe the next day you'll do the short toss screen for hitting. Maybe one day you'll be doing bunting. Maybe the next day you'll be doing a skill of sliding. See, you can pick and choose as you go through. And this will help you know when is the best time to work on these. I encourage you that in a baseball game or a softball game, the game before, maybe they've made a lot of mistakes in their rundowns. It's a lot wiser, rather than you, when you're emotionally kind of upset or they're emotionally upset for making a mistake, to yell at them and correct them there. The best time to do is to jot that down. The next practice now, as we work through the drills, we come to the hitting, now we come to the skills part of it, or the situations and things there. Now is when we go ahead and conduct the rundowns, and we help them see what they did and what they did wrong, what they can do right. This puts you to have some type of organization to your practices, some type of skills to your practices. So now you can say, from beginning till end, I know what I'm going to do on this field. Then the last thing we do is we go ahead and we help get conditioning. That's maybe the last 3 minutes or 4 minutes of the practice. We've walked through the practice, and now we have some running drills. We have about 3 that we're showing you here, and you can develop your own running drills. I just like to use some of the drills that they will use in a game, rather than just running sprints. Some of the drills we have is that maybe we'll have the outfielders line up from across from each other. They get in 2 lines. They have a ball, so that now they're going to go ahead and play catch by running back and forth, flipping the ball to each other. So they're used to running and catching the ball on the move, and they run on the balls of their feet rather than running on their heels. So the ball bounces like this. This helps them run the whole outfield distance and catch the ball, and they're getting used to catching the ball while they're running and getting conditioning. Another drill that we'll use in running sometimes, just a variation, is we'll have them run from first base, and we'll time them to first base. And we'll say go, and then the next person in line will say go, and we time them, and we keep their speeds not so that they compete against each other, but so that they learn to improve by the time your season's done. And you watch what one of your little girls does when she runs, and she may be down there in 5 seconds and 5.3 seconds, and the next practice it's 5.1. Next practice she's gotten into the 4s. She is really excited, and you've helped her learn how to run a little quicker. This also can add from home to home. You time them from home to home, different variations. The outfield, we have one more variation of running that we do at the end of some practices, is they all get in line and they would just say go. We throw the ball over their head while they run and catch the ball and then run it back to you, and we have them all run that way. Make the running fun for them, and they can have conditioning too. I hope that this has been helpful for you to conduct a practice. We've put it into kind of an organized fashion. We've divided it up into sections, and we've included a little workbook with you that you can kind of see what are the different drills, so you can choose how to pick and choose for each practice. I think you're going to find that you're going to get the most out of the players that you have, and they can enjoy the game besides just be out there and play. This part of the tape and developing your coaching philosophy, I think, is probably one of the most difficult things to teach. And the reason I think it's difficult to teach is because I can't have you develop a philosophy that's any more advanced than your philosophy of how you live life. Because I think coaching is really an extension of how you live your life. And so I can only give you some guidelines to at least put your philosophy in. I think it's important not only to develop your philosophy, I think it's really important that you share the philosophy with the players and the coaches. I try to have a meeting where I talk to them. What am I expecting, not only from them as players, but also for them as coaches? We have a tremendous opportunity as coaches to influence kids. We're going to influence them positive or negative. One way or another, they will be influenced. I think a lot of you can remember talking to people, or maybe your own life, that you can remember having a coach that impacted your life in such a way, or a teacher that impacted your life in such a way that it almost changed the direction of how you chose to live life because of the impact they had on you. So it's a tremendous opportunity. We need to be careful with the responsibility that's been given to us. One of the main things I think that, or at least the first thing that I would encourage you, is that you're not trying to be okay by how your players play. So their playing ability makes you okay or not. And if that happens, your identity is really basically tied to your kid's performance. If that happens, you're going to find yourself not only yelling at the kids or trying to control them or change them, you're going to lose focus of what your philosophy is. You see, baseball and softball is only a tool. It's a tool for us to help kids develop their personhood, their character for further on as they grow in life. It's not the game here itself that's most important. You know, a lot of times you've heard people talk about, well, just go out there and help them have fun. We're too serious about this game. And, you know, there's some truth to that. But I really don't think that, I think we lose something if we just try to teach kids to have fun. Then we lose an incredible impact that we might have on these kids. See, having fun, nobody runs a race to lose. And if your kids come out here and you say, oh, wasn't it fun? You lost every single game and they never developed as characters, they won't remember this as a very positive experience. I think that the tendency that we have is how we define winning. I think it's very important how you define winning to your players and to your coaches as well, and to their parents. And winning, normally in this world, the definition is as long as we beat our opponent or have more points than our opponent has, then we win. Or if our opponent has more points than we have, then we lose. The reason I think this is a real poor definition of winning and losing is because it never demands the kid to perform well or to play hard. He can leave a lot of himself behind because if he has a weak opponent, he just goes out and plays just kind of so-so, and he never really develops. I like to use the definition that I believe came from a Bible definition, said in Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, do it wholeheartedly towards a purpose towards the Lord which has been given to you. I think in layman terms that means let's give everything we've got, a total release of all that you are towards a specific task that's set before you and leave none of yourself behind. And if we do that and we help the kids do that, you know, they can actually win every game. Whether they win on points or not on points, they can go out and perform to their best ability. The funnest thing about that is most of the time if they do that, they end up winning on points too. And I think that they really enjoy that. The other thing that I think is really important is, in light of winning, that we teach kids how to focus. And that's a word you're going to be seeing a lot used today in sporting events. What do we mean by focus? Focusing, we mean that we're able to concentrate our entire ability, our mind, towards the task that we're doing. If we're pitching, that's what we're thinking about. We're not distracted by something else outside of the baseball game, or even possibly maybe the last at-bat I struck out, and I start leaving myself thinking about that. The kids that develop the best, not only as athletes, but also later on in their life, are kids that have learned how to take and focus. And that's one of the things that you can, as a coach, play a part in these kids learning. I have some rules that I really like our kids to keep. Here are some of those that I think is important for you to at least set up. One of them is respect, is that there is some respect on the field, not only towards me as a coach, but a respect towards the other coaches that are out there, and even respect towards their other teammates. That respect even crosses the line to other teammates that they're playing against, and that there is a respect that's demonstrated at this point. I also believe it's important for them to hustle, that when they're off the field and they're maybe walking along the dugouts and getting drinks of water, it's okay to laugh, have a good time. We joke in the dugouts and stuff, but when they walk out between those white lines, that they hustle. There's a sprinting that takes place, and that they learn to do that. I think that their attitude is a very, very important thing. And these are things I tell them before we play so they know what qualifies them to be a starter on our team. And their attitude is that they're not swearing, they're not throwing equipment, they're not yelling at umpires, they're not yelling at other teammates, they're not yelling at their own teammates. That there's an attitude of good sportsmanship that's shown when you win and when you lose. Remember, when you have just lost a game, and you shake the hands, how you shake the hands of the people that just beat you, someday are going to shake your hands from the other side of it. And so we try to teach them that the sportsmanship, and I think that's really important. We also try to have consequences. If they don't keep these things, if they break or violate either attitude or respect or hustle, then we have consequences. And today it's real difficult to show consequences without getting in trouble. But one of the consequences I think you have at your hand is the ability to start a player or not start a player, or possibly even play them. And if the consequence or the behavior is so severe that they maybe have to miss out a game, it gives us at least some tools to help build some things into these kids. The last thing that I would like to talk about here is the atmosphere that we set for these kids to grow in and mature in. And I'd encourage you to have an encouraging atmosphere, one that builds the kids up rather than one that tears them down. I like to use the word a graceful atmosphere. And that is to have an atmosphere where the kids are free to be themselves and know that you like these kids, you respect these kids, whether they perform well or don't perform well, that you just flat out like them. And I like to demonstrate, I like to leave the kids with that when they leave the field, that I like them and I'm not disappointed in them as a person. Now, we may have to correct some things in their behavior, and that's why we have some consequences for them, that we just talked about, the consequences of not having them play. A lot of coaches may use negative motivation. And a negative motivation we use because it works, or at least it works for a period of time. It gets them to perform a certain way, but it does not build up the kid. And remember, that's our primary reason for coaching, is to build up a kid. Negative motivation may be where you shame the kid, you yell at him, you embarrass him, you show him that you're disappointed in him in public, and so therefore he's going to try harder, and yet it doesn't build him up. Other ways of using negative motivation might be that you don't even talk to him. You just kind of look the other direction when he comes by after he struck out, and he sees disappointment, and so therefore he's really going to kind of improve. That may motivate him to try harder for a while, but eventually it doesn't, because he loses sight of who he is as a person. I think it's very, very important that we as coaches learn to communicate with the kids, that we not only talk to them during the game, but we talk to them individually, either after a game or before a game. I like to take each kid individually, take them aside, talk to them about their life, not just the baseball or the softball. Talk to them about what's going on in their life. How are they doing? It's amazing the opportunities that I've had as a coach to administer and to talk to kids and to be there for them. Years later, they come back and they ask me about things in life. And it's been a great opportunity because I've set an atmosphere early on in their life. And so we want to really try to help them with that. Not only can I talk to them about those things, but then that I've earned the right, so to speak, to talk to them about how they're performing. That maybe their performance is bored. Here's some things they need to work on. If they'd work on these things, then we could move them up to a starting position. And that gives them an opportunity to really work and motivate. This works also, but this doesn't just work for a short time. This works for a long time in their life. It begins to motivate them. Remember, as you're coaching, one of the rules that I like to use in coaching is what things have impacted my life, how people coached me, how people encouraged me that impacted my life. I would work as hard as I possibly could for a guy that believed in me and really let me know that he believed in me and encouraged me positively. And I worked hard for that. And just remember those types of things when you develop philosophy. I really hope that this video has been helpful for you. I hope that the skills will give you some tools of how to develop skills. The practice, I think, is exciting, so you're not just having everybody standing around. But most importantly, I want you to think through your philosophy. All I've done is given you a brief description of my philosophy. Hopefully, they're guidelines that you can use in your life of coaching. But remember this, you've got to be okay in yourself before you come out on this field and try to get life from your kids. If you can do that, then I think you're going to really enjoy your year of coaching. Thanks an awful lot for watching this video, and I hope you had as fun a time as I've had